You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. So we're going to be joined on the phone with Will Palin. It's all part of a regular update slot we do on the Dockyard Church. What's happening? Will, as always, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Daniel, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to inform your listeners where we are with the project.
So, just to refresh our listeners, if you could just sort of update them or let them know what the project actually is.
The project is to ultimately repair and find a new use for Dockyard Church, that beautiful but very derelict building at the entrance to Sheerness Docks. And we have built up a good head of steam, raising money and devising a scheme to convert the church for a new use.
So what's been happening since we last spoke?
It's always a slow process. As you can imagine with a building like this, the amount of money one has to raise is considerable. So if we're looking for public money, we have to jump through all sorts of hoops, understandably. So we are working on an application to the Heritage Lottery Fund, which will go in December, and that will be for something in the region of £4.5 million to go towards the project. So in order to convince the lottery that we have a project which is viable and appropriate, we have to do a lot of development work, so commissioning reports, business plans, understanding what needs to happen to the building, and of course all the accompanying costing work. So we've got together an excellent team of professionals who are being funded by the Architectural Heritage Fund and an organisation called the Pilgrim Trust. And we will be submitting our application in December.
So hopefully then the project can progress forward, I assume.
Absolutely, and then if they accept that application, we move on to the actual development stage proper, and we would hopefully start work on the building at some point next year. But there's quite a long way to go before then.
So our listeners may remember, I think a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, there was a crane at the Dockyard Church, and I went along and spoke to the operator about what he was doing, but what actually was happening, what were the results of that?
Yeah, we were undertaking some work that's been funded by Historic England to give us a full understanding of the current physical state of the building and to specify whatever works are needed in the short term to secure the church, prevent it from deteriorating any further. So they were up, I think when you went to see them, they were up dangling from a cage held by a crane, inspecting the tower to check the structure of that. And that was as part of this wider investigation looking at all aspects of the building, including things like ecology, bat surveys and timber decay reports and sewage and all sorts of stuff. So they've finished that report now, and we're hoping that Historic England will provide the funds to carry out those works shortly.
Well, I suppose that's perhaps sometimes the problem, sort of you're in the process of getting funding and making it happen, which takes, a long period of time. But I suppose you tend to forget that the building technically is still deteriorating, and you've got to keep an eye on that during this sort of period.
Absolutely right, Daniel, and it's something we're very conscious of. I mean, it's a fairly robust building, beautifully built in the 1820s to serve the Royal Naval Dockyard. But it suffered a catastrophic fire in 2001 and reduced to pretty much a shell. And we just need to monitor that because obviously the effects of wind and rain, and being by the estuary, the climate is quite harsh. So we need to make absolutely sure that building is stabilised and we don't get any further problems or collapses before we're able to start the project.
Now, one of the things that has been happening, our listeners probably might have noticed, is the art space room, the sort of converted shipping container gallery, has been near the Dockyard Church recently, I understand.
That's right. Obviously, we have to wait to start work on the building itself, but what we can get ahead with is doing activities related to the building and the landscape around it. And there's quite a lot of space at the rear of the church which we've been clearing and improving. And we just, last month, took delivery of this wonderful converted shipping container, which is a mobile art space called a room. And we'll be using that for gallery space and also, importantly, for some of the activities and the community outreach work, which is being undertaken by Alison Young, our community engagement officer. And we've had a very generous grant from the Queenborough Fisheries Trust to fund the work that she's doing on a reminiscence project, pulling together memories of the church and the dockyard from people that have worked there and been associated there in the past.
So are you still looking for people with those memories to get in contact?
Absolutely, and I think the best thing is for people to log on to our website and send an email or a query via that, and we can forward those to Alison.
Was there anything else you wanted to cover or get over to our listeners, or let them know about anything else that's happening or you're planning?
I think it's a question of watch this space, so keep an eye on the local press and our website for information on what's going on. And certainly when Alison's activities start in earnest, there'll be plenty of things to get involved with at the building, whether it's at school level or if you're just an interested person who wants to kind of find out what's going on.
So I also noticed that I think you're involved in trying to protect some buildings in the steel mill grounds. I was hoping you could tell our listeners a bit more about that.
Yeah, the buildings in question, the building in question is the former military hospital, subsequently used as the offices for the steelworks, which is that very fine late Georgian, early Victorian building, which you can see if you come to that roundabout before you get to the bridge over the moat to Tesco's. This building, for some reason, wasn't protected originally in the same way that the other Dockyard buildings were. It wasn't listed, and it's not in what's called a conservation area, which gives it protection. And we are concerned that when the steelworks redevelopment happens, which is underway at the moment, when that site is going to be cleared, the owners of that site, Gilport, want to demolish the hospital and get rid of it. So we're very eager to do everything we can to stop that happening. We think that would be a terrible thing with all the progress that's been made protecting the heritage elsewhere in the docks. It's a very fine building. It's quite clear it's ripe to be reused and add to the special quality and atmosphere and character of Bluetown and Sheerness. So the local authority has served in the meantime a building preservation notice, which will prevent any immediate demolition, but that runs out quite soon, and we're hoping that the building will be listed. That means it's been added to a special list of important buildings in England, and that gives it an added degree of protection. So we're hoping to find out over the next 2 or 3 weeks whether it has made that list. In the meantime, we would just urge Peel to think again and to consider this future of this building and what it could add to the possible changes in use of the wider dockyard and everywhere else in that part of Sheerness. And once it's gone, and you've lost an opportunity, I think, to really reinforce the character and the commercial possibilities of that part of Sheerness.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly glad you made us aware of it, because it's one of those things, you see these buildings there, but you don't really realise that they're not protected or are protected. So yeah, I'm glad you sort of made our listeners aware of what's happening there.
Yeah, it's strange that this building was never kind of properly protected in the same way as I said the other buildings in the docks, but we are very much hoping that will be rectified shortly.
Well, if you're happy we've covered everything, I'd like to thank you very much, as always, once again, for giving us our regular update.
Well, thanks a lot, Daniel, and thanks for your support and for the support of all your listeners and their patience, because I'm always conscious that the Dockyard Church project, has been going for a while, and it will continue to grow and develop, but it does take time.
Oh, well, as always, thank you, and we look forward to you keeping us up to date as the project progresses.
Thanks a lot, Daniel.